My girlfriend of 5 years ran away with a reverend at our engagement who knew that later she would regret it. On the day of my engagement with Helena Archer, the Reverend from Calmista City returned from his practice in St. Andrew Church. He handed Helena a cross necklace with a face full of compassion. "Helena, come with me. He's not good enough for you." Dressed in a mermaid dress, Helena wept with joy and ran over to him. "Chris, I've waited for you for so long." Then she turned to me and said coldly, "Albert Weils, let's break up. You were just a stand-in." All the guests looked at me with sympathy. However, I just nodded gently, without causing a fuss. They did not know that it was the last day Amanda, Helena's mother, hired me to play the role of Helena's boyfriend. Finally, after 5 years, I was free. Who knew that later she would regret it? On the day of my engagement with Helena Archer, the Reverend from Calmista City returned from his practice in St. Andrew Church. He handed Helena a cross necklace with a face full of compassion. "Helena, come with me. He's not good enough for you." Dressed in a mermaid dress, Helena wept with joy and ran over to him. "Chris, I've waited for you for so long." Then she turned to me and said coldly, "Albert Weils, let's break up. You were just a stand-in." All the guests looked at me with sympathy. However, I just nodded gently, without causing a fuss. They did not know that it was the last day Amanda, Helena's mother, hired me to play the role of Helena's boyfriend. Finally, after 5 years, I was free. Who knew that later she would regret it? At 2 in the morning, my phone rang. When I heard the distinctive ringtone, I instantly woke up and swiped to answer. After 5 years with Helena, I had gotten into the habit of picking up her calls immediately. As soon as the call connected, there was loud music playing on the other end. I furrowed my brows. "Helena, what's going on?" As soon as I spoke, a burst of uproarious laughter echoed through the receiver. "Helena, he really picked up immediately. It's 2 in the morning. Helena, you are amazing indeed. You know how to manage your husband well. He's available around the clock for you. He's absolutely smitten with you. Hey, he's a top-tier student from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He's a master at time management." Within the next moment, Helena's voice came through. It was filled with smugness and arrogance. "Albert, I'm at the usual place. Come get me within half an hour." Then she hung up right away. I dared not waste any time. I grabbed my trench coat and car keys and dashed out of the apartment. 20 minutes later, I arrived at the bar where Helena and her friends were. Upon seeing me arrive so promptly, Helena's friends exclaimed in surprise, "Twa, that speed is insane. He arrived in 20 minutes. Helena, let me know when you get tired of him. I've yet to date a cool, aloof scholar yet." Being quite tipsy, Helena waved at them. "No problem. If I ever get bored of him, I'll pass him on to you." Despite her treating me as a commodity that she could give away so lightly, my face still showed no hint of embarrassment. I had always known that we were not from the same world. Yet, there was a pang of hurt in my heart. After 5 years, I still could not warm her heart. I draped the trench coat over Helena, helped her into the car, and buckled her seatbelt. When we got home, I carried her back to the bedroom. Just as I was about to put her down, Helena suddenly grabbed my neck tightly. "Chris, don't leave me." Helena started sobbing. "What part of me isn't good enough? Why would you rather devote yourself to Christ Jesus than to me? If you don't come back, I'm going to marry someone else." I forced myself to take her hands off my neck, fighting the pain inside me. "Helena, you're drunk. I'm Albert Weils, not Christopher Lopez." Then I tucked her into bed, turned, and left the bedroom. I went to prepare a cup of honey water for her to sober up. I had always known that Helena had always seen me as a substitute for Christopher. Christopher was a well-known reverend in Calmista City and came from a distinguished family. He was rumored to have ethereally handsome features. In the year he was born, the Lopez family specifically sought a priest to predict God's plan for him. The priest stated that Christopher was a true Christ follower. Therefore, Christopher started to get into reading Bible scriptures at a very young age. Indeed, his understanding was extraordinarily profound. He was later accepted as a disciple by a priest from St. Andrew Church. Helena was his childhood sweetheart. She got together with Christopher when she was 16. Initially, their family backgrounds were quite similar. and they were neighbors as well. It was a natural progression and something their parents were happy about. However, Christopher's constellation indicated that an ill fate was awaiting him. Helena, on the other hand, was born with a different constellation. There was an old folk belief that the pairing of both their constellation types would end tragically. Not only that, but it was believed that one person in this pairing would be fatally harmed. After less than 3 years together, Helena suddenly fell gravely ill and was nearly beyond saving. A later consultation with the priest revealed that Helena had been harmed due to Christopher's fate. If they continued to stay together, Helena would inevitably meet with misfortune and death within 10 years. Helena was Amanda's only daughter. Knowing that Helena could potentially die if they were to stay together, her mother demanded a breakup immediately. Helena refused, but feeling guilty for endangering her, Christopher took the initiative to propose the breakup. After that, he left for St. Andrew Church to devote himself to the religion. Helena has been despondent ever since. In my second year of college, Helena returned to the University of Massachusetts Amherst after a year of recuperation at home. The moment she laid her eyes on me, her eyes were rimmed red, and her face was full of sorrow. It was as if we once knew each other, and I had let her down. At that time, I was busy with studying and working part-time jobs. I had absolutely no interest in romance, so I just swiftly walked past her. The next day, she found my dormitory and started a fervent pursuit of me. Many classmates knew Helena's background. They were joking that I could cut 50 years of hard work now. However, I had no interest in relationships. I viewed them as a waste of time and money. My family's financial condition also did not allow me to spend energy on such things. Helena had enough confidence to play the game of love, but I did not have that luxury. Moreover, right around that time, my mother had been diagnosed with kidney disease. My financial state occupied my mind. Where would I have the mind to pay attention to Helena? While I worried about obtaining a kidney donor and my financial issues, Helena's mother came to see me. "Albert, I'll take care of the cost of your mother's illness and medication. I want you to be my daughter's boyfriend for 5 years, always at her beck and call and keeping her safe. After 5 years, this contract will be void, and I'll give you another $5 million. If she needs it, you can cross the line, but the premise is that you can't impregnate her. If you can make her fall in love with you in 5 years, I'll agree to make you my son-in-law." I agreed to her request. It was only later, when I gradually fell for Helena, I heard from her sisters that the reason why she pursued me obsessively was because I looked very much similar to Christopher, the Reverend from Calmista City. Helena pursued me simply because I was Christopher's doppelganger. After Helena woke up from her hangover, I served her a bowl of millet porridge. "Helena, we need to try on our engagement banquet outfits after breakfast." Helena's hand that held the spoon froze for a moment. Then she nodded somewhat listlessly. "I know." After breakfast, we went to the bridal shop. Helena tried a halter mermaid dress. The well-tailored mermaid dress accentuated her slim figure, making her look graceful and charming. In 5 years, Helena has transformed from the crybaby girl she used to be into a mature, gorgeous woman. Donned in a white suit, I walked up to her and rested my hands lightly on her shoulders. "Helena, you look beautiful in the mermaid dress," I exclaimed sincerely, my eyes lighting up as I looked at her. In the mirror, we resembled a perfect couple, with our unmatchable height difference that people found the cutest. We were like a match made in heaven. Yet, Helena was staring blankly at the mirror. She looked at me, her eyes tinged with sadness. I knew that she was looking at another man through me. I forced a smile and then suggested to her, "This one is really pretty. Shall we try another one?" Only then did Helena snap out of it. She pulled a long face and shook her head. "No thanks, I'm a bit tired. Let's try it another time." "All right, as you wish." I did not insist. After Helena changed her clothes, she said in a somewhat irritated tone, "Albert, I want to go home. Give me the car keys and hail a cab for yourself." I nodded and gently reminded her, "All right, be careful on the road." "I get it. Stop nagging." She snatched the keys from me and left the bridal shop without looking back. Not long after Helena left, I received a call from Amanda. "Albert, it's been 5 years. It seems that you won't be able to become my son-in-law, Amanda uttered indifferently. I responded softly. Rest assured, Madam Amanda, I'm not the type to cling desperately. Once the contract period is up, I'll leave on my own. It seems I've overestimated your abilities. With that, she hung up the phone. I clenched my phone, feeling somewhat dejected. After signing the contract with Amanda, I accepted Helena's confession. At first, it was due to my pledge to Amanda, so I would attend to Helena's beck and call. Gradually, I could not help but fall in love with her. Fairly speaking, in a relationship, Helena was a girl who liked to make a fuss. In the middle of the night, she would want me to buy her fried chicken that was 50 kilometers away. In the heat of summer, she would want me to take her to see snow. When it rained, she would want me to stand under the trees to get soaked and then to run and cling to her, completely drenched. One rainy day when she got drunk, I found out that the day Christopher broke up with her and left was also a day that rained heavily. Christopher had walked away without looking back. Her wanting me to stand in the rain and then come back to hold her was as though Christopher had never left her and had returned. She tormented me again and again with things she had done with Christopher. She was looking for the shadow that Christopher once left on me. Despite that, I did not care. I had enough patience to chisel away the traces Christopher left in her heart. I thought I could overcome any obstacle as long as I was sincere. Yet, it seemed like I was just overestimating myself. But I quickly cheered up again. I fooled myself by thinking that at the very least, Helena agreed to be engaged with me. She was such a proud girl. How could she agree to be engaged to me if she did not care about me a little? I allowed a glimmer of hope to rise in my heart. Half a month later, the day of the engagement banquet arrived. During the makeup session, Helena kept looking at her phone, seeming distracted. I thought she was nervous and quickly comforted her in a low voice. Helena, relax, I'm here. Helena glanced at me, appearing slightly impatient. Soon, the engagement banquet officially began. Helena wore the mermaid dress we tried on that day. She had her hair pulled up and her beauty was beyond words. Just as we were stepping onto the stage, the door to the hall was suddenly pushed open. Helena looked over expectantly. The next moment, a deep surprise flashed across her face, her eyes reddening. Chris, you're finally back. At the end of the hall, Christopher, dressed in robes, stood against the light with a cross necklace in hand. Even his attire could not diminish his refinement and transcendental aura. He extended the cross necklace toward Helena. His low eyebrows cast a compassionate look, a display of sorrow for the world's woes. Helena, come with me. He's not worthy of you. Christopher's tone was full of disdain when he mentioned me. Tears welled up in Helena's eyes as she nodded furiously. She picked up the hem of her mermaid dress, about to run towards Christopher. Instinctively, I grabbed her wrist. There was a touch of plea in my expression. Helena, don't go with him. This is our engagement banquet. Helena abruptly broke free and then cast a mocking look at me. Enough, Albert. If it wasn't to push for Chris's return, do you think I would have agreed to get engaged with you? Let's break up. You were just a stand-in for Chris. Now that he's back, it's high time that you, a counterfeit, disappear. Then, without looking back, she made her way directly toward Christopher along the red carpet. After falling into Christopher's arms, Helena burst into tears. Chris, I've been waiting for you. Christopher enveloped her in a tight hug and wiped away her tears softly. I'm sorry for making you wait so long. I've returned. The area fell silent. Everyone watched the two of them pour their hearts out. I ended up being the biggest joke. With the return of the original, it seemed there was no place left for the counterfeit me. Watching them sticking closely to each other, I finally gave up. A replacement was just a replacement. I was unwanted and unneeded between the two of them. A moment later, I silently left the engagement scene. Before leaving, I called Madam Amanda. Madam Amanda, today is the last day of the contract. After this, we've both achieved what we wanted. Madam Amanda sighed on the phone. I know. Thank you for these 5 years. I responded indifferently. Don't mention it. We both took what we needed from this partnership. After leaving the engagement scene, I went back to my apartment, grabbed my passport, and took a taxi to the airport. Then, I blocked and deleted Helena's and the others' numbers. The year I met Helena was when I was in my sophomore year of college. Initially, I did not plan to attend graduate school. My family's circumstances forced me to work and earn money as quickly as possible. However, after Helena's mother found me, I took the graduate school exam at my university to accompany Helena in her academic journey. That year, I graduated from graduate school and could finally start looking for a job. Helena's mother wanted me to join her company for experience, but I refused. I knew that deep down she harbored a shred of hope for me, genuinely hoping that I could replace Christopher in Helena's heart. Sadly, I disappointed her. Matters of the heart, no matter how intense, could not be forced. Just a few days ago, I sailed through an online interview with a foreign financial company. Thanks to the $5 million Amanda gave me for my mother's aid, I could now head overseas for work without any constraints or burdens. After all, if I stayed in the country, I would unavoidably hear some news about Helena. I did not want to hear anything about her anymore. Upon my arrival at New Even City Airport, I saw my college buddy, Hugo Jules, holding up a sign and frantically waving at me from the airport exit. "Albert, you finally arrived. I've been desperately waiting for you. There's a bunch of people at my home waiting to be fed," he called out. I chuckled. "You've been waiting a long time for me to cook, haven't you?" Helena was a picky eater, so I had to learn to cook to cater to her. After my friends tried my cooking, they were entirely amazed. Since they were used to Western food abroad, it was natural for them to miss their hometown food. Hugo chuckled and complained, "Just as long as you understand. You have no idea how hard it is to find a decent restaurant serving hometown food here. I swear, if I keep this up, I'm going to start tasting like a burger." I could not help but laugh lightly. On the way, Hugo cautiously asked, "So, how are things with Helena?" I admitted lightly, "We've parted. Her first love is back, so we called it quits." Hugo patted my shoulder. "Don't be sad, Albert. Out with the old, in with the new. It's normal for us to not end up with a rich girl like Helena, as we're not in the same social class." Then, with a mischievous smile, he whispered in my ear, "Among the girls coming to welcome you to New Even City tonight, there's a pretty junior who's been secretly in love with you for years. Normally, we can hardly meet her, but the moment she heard you were here, she immediately decided to attend this gathering. Don't miss out. Show her some talent tonight." I was a little surprised to hear this. For the past 5 years, my attention was mostly occupied by Helena, and I barely noticed other girls. However, I was not in the mood to start a new relationship. When I followed Hugo to his rented house, I found that quite a few people had arrived. They quickly introduced themselves. "Albert, we heard from Hugo that you're an excellent cook. We're shameless enough to freeload a meal." A few boys teased while laughing. "Yes, we should have been the ones welcoming and treating you, but instead, we're making you cook." One of the pretty girls spoke to me in a gentle voice.